are getting significant change within the city bureaucracy. We're getting a new planning GM, a new director in the planning department, and also, I just heard yesterday, a new director of transit. How do those changes in leadership in the city administration affect what you want to do for change? I mean, do they make things easier?
Well, it certainly means that there is a window of opportunity. And when you're talking about change in an organization, there's a couple ways to think about it. It could be that the existing leadership are the right people to lead the change because they understand the organization, they're well respected by the people in the organization and so on. But given that we are having significant leadership changes in those areas, it's a coincidence, but I think a coincidence that actually allows us to, it's sort of like wet concrete when you have a new leader in place in an organization like that, that you can actually mold the organization in a way that is sometimes harder to do once the concrete sets. So, you know, the people who are leaving have been great public servants, have done great work for the city, and it's just retirement time. There's nothing nefarious in this. But it does give us an opportunity as we're doing a search for new leadership to really make sure that we're having people coming into place who have that kind of change mindset as well.
And what are you looking for in new leaders?
Well, you know, I think that the city of Calgary, is really becoming a great employer of choice. And people are really excited about moving to Calgary, as well as working for the city of Calgary. So there are a number of great internal candidates, but I anticipate that for the 3 positions you mentioned, we'll also be looking outside and seeing if we can bring great thinkers into the process and see how our internal people stack up against them.
I should also clarify, how much sway or influence do you have on those decisions of staff?
Well, remember that City Council has just 2 employees. We only hire the city manager and the city auditor, and everyone else reports through through their managers to the city manager. And so the city manager ultimately makes the hiring decision, and that's good governance. But he certainly will look to us for input, to City Council for input, and I've certainly provided my direction on the kinds of people I'd like him to be interviewing. And I understand that in each of those 3 positions, there is an alderman who serves as one member of the search committee.
No, it was widely known that the last mayor had a very, he picked, the people who wound up going into those positions were the people who he.
Do you really think so? I don't know. I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think he certainly had opinions on the matter, as I do. But I've not heard anything. I haven't asked the question, to be fair, but I've not heard anything that suggested that he told the city manager.
But will this become Nenshi's new team on these high priority issues?
Well, no, it'll become City Council's team and the citizens of Calgary's team, and I think that's important. But a certain amount of change is important. As I say, unlike some other executive departures over the last year, the 3 that you're referring to are just retirements.
Going back to actually one of your 3 priorities on transit, I just would like to clarify what it is you're looking to accomplish. Is it a sequencing of the next major capital projects?
Yeah.
We have a whole bunch in the hopper. We have, you've talked about airport LRTs, a lot of expectation there. The North Central line is coming up, Southeast, and
Stephen Avenue Subway.
Stephen Avenue Subway,
and maybe other
BRTs
things.
as well.
And maybe BRTs.
Is that what you're looking at for this?
That's half of it. That's exactly what I'm looking at for the long-term capital plan. The challenge that I have is that in the past, Calgary Transit's medium and long-term planning has seemed to me to be rather sporadic and ad hoc. And as money became available, things got built, as opposed to having a really thoughtful, sequenced, prioritized list of capital needs. So for example, my LRT station, the McKnight West Twin Station, just before it was built, the community was still being told, we anticipate this will serve as the end of the line for 15 to 20 years. And of course, we expanded it almost immediately. The expansion of the Northwest LRT from Crowfoot to Tuscany, I have never seen it in a long-term capital plan for Calgary Transit. It just wasn't there in any of the documents that were publicly available anyway. And so I just don't like this kind of ad hoc thinking. This is serious money. And so I really want transit to be able to say, look, here's the benefit of the Southeast, here's the benefit of the North Central, here's the benefit of the subway, here's the benefit of 4-car LRVs, 4-car trains, I should say, and here's the benefit of BRT. So that we can really look at the whole package and say, all right, what is the most benefit to the most people? What's the biggest bang for the buck? And I'm afraid to say I don't think transit has done a very good job of doing that in the past.
That said, given the...
And that's half, by the way.
Okay.
The other half is an operating plan. I feel that we need to be much more thoughtful on how we operate the system, on the levels of customer service we provide, on the performance metrics by which we measure the system. It feels as though for a long time it was a system run by engineers, and which is a good thing, make the trains run on time, right? But it almost felt as though we were serving the route, we were serving the system more than we were serving the customers. And I want to switch that mindset around. And you've seen a lot of it over the course of the last year, transit being much more open about things like service disruptions and delays, letting people know what's going on, how they can get back to work, how they can get to school or work more effectively. So I think that's very important. I mean, it's interesting, right? Because as you know, we actually haven't had a particularly horribly worse year in service disruptions than we had in the past, the year before. But we're certainly much more open about telling people about them. Mm-hmm. And that's almost had the impact of people going, wow, there's so many more of these, which there really aren't. Right. But I think that openness ultimately is a good thing.
Are you going to be running the next election, Mayor?
Good heavens. Didn't I answer that question just 2 months ago? So I had made a promise to myself when I started this job that I will not run my life as a politician based only on the next election. And so I just want to continue to do a good job every day, as opposed to thinking about the next election. So far, I'll tell you, I'm enjoying the job. I think people are happy, by and large, with our performance as a city council. Those are certainly factors that will weigh in my decision, and I'll make the decision closer to the election.
But do you feel that 3 years is enough to affect the change that you want?
That's an excellent question. I wouldn't have known until I tried it, and I am very, very, very pleased with the amount of progress we've been able to get done in a year. And sometimes when you're going day to day, it really does take an event like a year-end conversation to step back and say, well, you know, what have we done all year? And I'm quite pleased with the speed at which we've been able to make a number of changes. At the same time, a lot of stuff is underway. A lot of stuff has gotten started. And the question then becomes, do you need the same hand at the tiller in order to make sure that stuff finishes well? And that's what I'm going to have to assess over the course of the next year or two.
Some might question, though, your commitment to the job if you don't commit to running for another term.
I don't know who would question that. Because, you know, I was elected to do a great job for this term, and that's what I intend to do.